This is a quotation from the writer and civil rights advocate Michelle Alexander. Like Jim Crow and slavery, mass incarceration operates as a tightly networked system of laws, policies, customs, and institutions that operate collectively to ensure the subordinate status of a group defined largely by race. She's talking about our huge national prison and jail population with its dubious claim to being #1 in the world.
There are signs that some legislative relief may be on the horizon, but the problem isn't going away anytime soon. So meanwhile, as the title of a forum happening tonight asks, what is our creative response to mass incarceration? At Lincoln Center, a panel of multidisciplinary artists will offer some answers. It's presented by MAP International Productions, whose Director of Community Relations, Rasu Jalani, joins us now. Welcome.
How you doing? Thank you. Thank you for having me
Thank you for coming. As well as tonight's moderator, Gina Belafonte, Co-Director of Sankofa. Welcome.
Thank you both for being here. Rasu, why don't we start with you? How did you become involved in these issues?
So we have a production right now with one of our artists, Lisa Jessie Peterson, who's addressing mass incarceration through a piece that she has called Peculiar Patriot. And what it does is puts a spotlight on human stories of the incarcerated, specifically women prisoners. Mm-hmm. And she's been working with prisons for about 15 years and gathered all these stories and created a play out of it. So as the Director of Community Programs, what I decided to do was look at the issue itself and how I can connect this with particular communities that are affected, which is predominantly Black and Brown communities. So Kindred Talks is a forum that allows us to bring together interdisciplinary artists and experts from cross sectors to talk about the issue at hand and bring their personal stories to the forefront to put a human story to all the statistics around it.
Yeah, that's what MAP International does kind of with a lot of different issues, right? Let's take it back and tell us about
So MAP, we are producers of creative projects from theater to dance and to obviously perform different forms of performance. So, you know, we tour these performances. And what I'm responsible for is taking the context of these performances and put them in front of different communities and that are really at the ground level with the issue and develop conversation, whether it's youth groups to cultural or community organizations connecting the dots that formalize advocacy around the production. Because every production we work with has some type of meaning to it, whether it's a social issue, connectives, or bringing up social consciousness around a particular issue.
So Gina, what can you tell us about your involvement in these issues?
Well, I entered into the area also about 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was living in Los Angeles, and I, at an event, met a young man who claimed himself to be a gang interventionist. Mm-hmm. And when I inquired on what that really meant, he told me about a program that he was working on with the former football player Jim Brown, mm-hmm. called the American program. And his name was Bo Taylor. And he discussed that they had this life management skills course that they taught to the community, and they also went into prisons to help those that were incarcerated who were coming back into the community with skills on life management, which ranged from substance abuse to communication skills, how to get a job, early childhood development issues. It was sort of like a self-help, group therapeutic kind of experience. So he asked me to start coming into the prison and talk to the men that were graduating from the course. And so I started to do that, and I started to interface with our incarcerated citizens and started to realize that we're all sort of just 1 or 2 steps away from the possibility of finding ourselves in a situation where we might be incarcerated.
Right. 5 million people, I believe, is the statistic. 5 million people are incarcerated or on parole right now, Americans.
Yeah, it's devastating numbers. Our society tends to criminalize poverty. We have mass unemployment where people go to use desperate measures to try and get by and support their families. So about 15 years ago is when I came into the process, and I haven't turned back since. And I've been working with different organizations, Second Call out in Los Angeles also, that provide programs and assistance to our incarcerated citizens.
So 22% of the world's prison population is here in America. I mean, what can we do about this? Like, how do people get involved in trying to fix this situation?
Yeah, I think, what Gina does with Sankofa to, artists like Lisa Jesse Peterson and bringing awareness around the issue. Because I think a lot of people who are not connected to the communities that are impacted are not thinking about it every day. It doesn't impact them. So it's an issue that kind of goes beyond their consciousness. So one is developing collective consciousness around the issue. Two, I think we need to look at the system that we all inherited. The system is flawed. It's been flawed for a very long time. And now what we're looking at is how do we reform our criminal justice system? It's not perfect, it's never been perfect, and we need to address that. And the tentacles of the monster is, stop and frisk, police brutality, mass incarceration, prison industrial complex, which includes privately owned prisons. We have the most privately owned prisons in the world, and it's a ridiculous statistic and reality.
It's also the school to prison pipeline. It's also the testing at age 3, grade 3. They look at those scores and then they just track those kids straight into prisons or a lifestyle that could lead them to that, and it's deeply, deeply painful. I'm a dyslexic person, and 1 in 5 people in America, or I think in the world perhaps, are dyslexic. And when I think of the challenges that differently abled people have in terms of the way in which they learn, that we just need to look at the systems in our culture need to have a new look, take a new look, and a sweep needs to shift.
Indeed.
So how does art shine a light on these issues?
Yeah, I think Gina, you go first.
Well, our organization, Sankofa.org, solicits the support of artists, thought leaders, and celebrities in partnership with grassroots organizations to shine a light on issues. So we have 4 main issues. Juvenile justice and incarceration is one of them, and very dear to us. They're all dear to us. Another is immigration, another is income disparity, and then we chose the overall banner of violence because we thought that while all 3 of those spaces can lead to violent circumstances, there are many, many other issues that we want to have the freedom to explore, so we chose violence as a banner. All art is political, even if it doesn't really mean to be. And I think that artists play a huge role in shining a light on issues. One of my father's mentors, Paul Robeson, said artists are the gatekeepers of truth, and that we're civilization's radical voice. And we need to use our voice, we need to use our talents, we need to use our platforms to make sure that we can educate and help people understand more deeply the circumstances and issues. Because not only should we show life as it is in art, we can also show life as it should be.
Right. So art can certainly impact these things, and you're doing wonderful work, but is this something, what would you say to somebody that would say that it's up to President Obama to impact this directly with an executive order?
That's a kind of a top-down methodology. I think what we should look at is historically the president doesn't budge until the people scream, yell, protest, throw rocks, and really impact his decision or his committee's decision to change a policy. And again, policy is just one of the arms of a bigger issue. So I think the artist or art can be that that information channel to the heart that informs the brain. I think if we just inundate people with statistics, if you're not a heady person, you're not a person that's informed in that way, you lose them. So what happens, art balance the other brain that's in the solar plexus. So what happens is now people are throwing away the political mechanisms that they've adopted and kind of like look at things from a human perspective, and then go to their local community leader to say, look, I want to do something about this. Community leader goes to the politician goes to, and it goes all the way up.
Also, Rasu and I were talking earlier about how, for instance, rap music has played a large role in influencing a lot of young people, and how the system and or those who are in places of power have chosen to sort of co-opt that creative space and produce and distribute music and lyrics that don't really depict the well-being, shall we say, of our communities. And there's a lot of artists out there that are deeply political and also that are rapping about love and respect, and we don't hear those songs, and there's a reason why we don't hear those songs. There's a systematic sort of consciousness, I think, around muffling and keeping oppressed and down the radical voices, and not even the radical voices, the voices of true humanity and community and love. And you know, we need to be kinder people. We need to have more humanity brought into all of these discussions, and see ourselves as individuals and where we need to play a role in the larger community.
So what can people expect from the panel tonight?
Cool. I think, you know, Gina is going to be our beloved moderator for it. We are looking forward to it. We also have, like, our artist that we're producing, Lisa Jessie Peterson, who has the one-woman show, The Period Patriot. We also have Elliot Cole, who's one of the participants of Musicambia, which brings music programs to prisons, like Sing Sing and Rikers Island. We also have Jennifer McShane, who did a documentary called Mothers of Bedford, which puts shining light on the forgotten prison population, the women, and their relationships to their children, who they're now disconnected from being incarcerated. We also have Deron Jackson, who is a very well-known painter who has done these blackboard paintings that depicts the aerial view of prisons. And when you look at them, you're like, oh, these are great paintings. And then when you go into the context of it, you're like, wow, there's something else going on here. So that's our panel, and they're going to really talk about why they have been inspired to use their art as a mechanism to inform people about mass incarceration.
Excellent.
What are you looking forward to on the panel tonight?
I'm looking forward to the people who we're talking to and with, that they get an opportunity to learn more about the issue, that their ears and hearts are opened to questioning more and having these discussions in their own homes and amongst their friends who are not there. I just want to say thank you to BRIC for having us here, because here's a perfect example of a way in which culture is using its platform to shine a light, and we're deeply grateful to have this opportunity to be here and to not only speak about what's happening tonight, but inform the community that there's a lot of work being done. There's a lot of artists and areas and spaces where they can look to see who is transforming this space, and how they too can use art, even if it's just drawing at home with their children, to educate them on issues that they will be facing when they grow up.
Well, BRIC wants to thank you not only for the great jobs that you're doing, but thank you for being here. They're telling me to tell your father that we said hi. How is he?
He's awesome. He's great. He is right now, which is rare, he's taking a week vacation, which I'm very proud of him for doing. He's 88 years old. He is the founder of our organization, Sankofa.org, and he, you know, is at the forefront of all of this emerging movements. He is a sounding board and a mentor to a lot of the young men and women who are on the forefront of a lot of what we see in the activity in the streets, those who are carrying on the legacy of civil rights. And he's great. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. What time tonight?
Royalty.
Can anyone come?
Yeah, so it's open to the public. It's free, open to the public. It's at Lincoln Center Atrium, Rubenstein Atrium at Lincoln Center. This is the correct title. It's on Broadway between 63rd
and 62nd.
and 62nd.
Okay.
There we go. And it's open to the public, so we hope to see you all there.
Excellent.
Thank you both
so
very
much for being here.
Please come back again soon.
Thank you so much.